Yeah, and so just to go into this match, Catota has been featured on the stream a couple times. He played an incredible game last week against Pastry, in which he was able to basically anticipate Bloodlust and execute a minion that made no sense with his patron deck. He's extremely good patron player, so we would expect that from his warrior. And I believe he brought Freeze Mage last week, but he's also brought Tempo Mage in the past as well. So the Mage is a bit of a guess. With a lineup like Druid, Warlock, Warrior from ClarkKent, I would expect him to bring something like a Tempo Mage, similar to what Twiz and Sacred Jew did. Basically not bringing Freeze because of the Freeze Mage. It's just not a good lineup to go against with Freeze Mage. Catota also has Hunter, which I believe is mid-range. So we will be jumping into that game very shortly. Clark bringing Druid. There's not many variations. I assume it'll be a fairly straightforward mid-range. Warlock and Warrior. Clark plays both Control and Patron Warrior, so not entirely sure which Warrior we'll see out of him. I think it'll depend on what he's going up against. And as for Warlock, he also plays both Zoo and Handlock. I would kind of expect, against this matchup, I would kind of expect a Handlock from him.
Does everybody have Catota added?
I do, yes.
All right, so we got Catota and Clark. Dan, are you with us? I think Dan may have stepped out for a second. We can start without him, but sure. Yeah. Okay. I think, are we good to go? Are they
yeah, I'm giving them the go-ahead.
Okay. So we're going to jump right into this. This is the night has been pretty tumultuous. Dan able to 3-0 Sacred Jew. I dropped 2-3 to Twiz after he reverse sweeped me. And so right now we are tied at 4-4. And so this is a huge game in terms of deciding the finals. Again, if Catota 3-0s, it is definite win for Xynergy. Anything else, any other result from that will basically lay in the hands of the final game, which is Tazdingo versus Vendiclick. It was supposed to occur last night. However, very unfortunately, Tazdingo was in a car accident, and while he is okay, he wasn't able to play. So we're going to try to get that game, I guess, happen tonight, since it's the last night. But we need to it's still up in the air. All right, so they are about to play this game. Looking at the lineups, Steve, do you have any predictions, anything to add?
No, I think they're both pretty evenly matched, which is kind of the theme of this series, this final match. I don't think anybody's had a real true advantage in terms of the lineups they've brought. The meta's pretty simple right now at the top. There's like 3 tier 1 decks and then a handful of tier 2 decks, and nobody's really going outside of that at all.
Right, sure. Well, to his credit, brought Dragon Mage, which is pretty much seen in top level play. So, and he was able to win with it. So, credit to him. They are about to start here. I think Catota is almost level maxed in his PR. He almost has a perfect PR. ClarkKent, it is worth mentioning, actually has the best win rate in the entire league. I believe, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think he's lost this season. And I know he only lost once last season in the playoffs. So I think he's either 19-1 or 18-2. He's one of those.
I can tell you he did lose once this season.
So he's 18-2 over 2 seasons in the league. Yeah, I'm very, very, very proud of him. He's done great. So, we are gonna jump right into this game. It looks like we started off. Can you guys see?
I can't.
Okay, let's message him. I messaged him. Okay, and right off the bat, we see Patron from Catota and Control Wear from Clark. He said he turned it on, but I cannot see him.
Me either.
Interesting.
about Steve? Can you see Clark Kent? Are you able to spectate him?
I am not, no. So I guess I'll open with Catota.
I'm just double checking to make sure he does indeed have it on.
We've got a Warrior Mirror.
We got a Warrior Mirror, and I know Clark is bringing Control. So I can tell you it's Control Warrior versus Patron. But aside from that, I did right before he challenged me. Okay, so he says he's turned it on. Okay, so I think we should just go ahead and we won't see Clark's hand. Obviously,
I guess you could tell him to toggle it again.
Okay, I will do that. And I guess we'll just view it from Katota's hand if we can't get cards.
Yeah.
Better to see half than none.
And yeah, I can provide the information, having prepped with Clark, that this is a Control Warrior coming from Clark. But aside from that, we made many different decks. So there was the anti-Hunter Mage deck, which Dan and I both brought. So he could be bringing that. We did make an anti-Patron deck. Knowing, since he opened with it as his first deck, okay, so since he did open it with his first deck, I would expect this to be the anti-Hunter Mage deck, because it would be extremely greedy of him to kind of open with a
anti-patron list.
Anti-patron list, looking for the 33% chance.
I would think Brawl, things like Senjin and not as much Belcher, and Brawl and Revenge, those are all good against Patron anyway, so.
Yeah, the deck he has, I can since we can't see the hand, I'll just provide a lot. It does run double Brawl, whereas Dan and I, we did not run double Brawl because we weren't going up against patrons. So he does have double Brawl, and I believe it has the Harrison, but it also has cards like Kazan, which are absolutely.
Let's hope he's got double Brawl, because Catota has Death Spite into Inner Rage Patron.
Yeah, Catota has a dream hand, quite literally. He's got 3 Whirlwind effects in his hand. He has the Warsong Commander, and he's got the Inner Rage Grim Patron. That is really good. He's been sitting on this Fiery War Axe, I guess, trying to maybe fight the early Armor Smiths and Acolytes that that Clark may drop, but it hasn't got any use. And right now he kind of has to make the decision if he wants to just throw out the Death Spite. And if he does that, it's just kind of sad because that's basically like burning a Fiery War Axe. That being said, the Fiery War Axe generally doesn't get a ton of value against a Control Warrior. It does, however, get pretty good value against a Patron player. So Catota doesn't know what he's going up against right now, and so I think he's going to try to at least get 6 damage out of this axe before he commits to the Death Spite. This matchup, from Katota's standpoint, he doesn't know if this is Control or Patron. Having seen both his teammates go up against double Control Warriors from Dan and I, you have to start thinking that maybe Archon Storm isn't bringing Patron as much. And if you're Catota here, there's 2 lines of play as the Patron player, and I've seen both be used successfully. You can go for the massive kind of OTK,
which I think against Control you have to do, right?
Right, and in that case, you're going to need like an extremely good ET, which he can get with this hand. I mean, he's got a lot of the factors.
Definitely.
But he also needs to draw ET before the Control Warrior gets to 80 health and, massive minions on board. That being said, there's another strategy to play this matchup, which we saw Yuri use against Slimsh in one of our Salty Weekends, in which Yuri decided to just Patron on turn 5 and kind of put Slimsh on having the Brawl. And, you know, they're only 5 turns in, maybe they didn't draw Brawl, and if they don't have Brawl, then suddenly the Warrior is in, the Control Warrior is in an extremely bad position. Unfortunately, we cannot see Nick's hand, so we can't really tell if he has the Brawls, or a Brawl, or any response to the Warrior, to the Patron, rather. Catota right now, going into turn 6, will be able to make, I believe, 5 Patrons, with the Despite, the Grim Patron, Inner Rage, Despite Swing, and Whirlwind. It'll make 6 and 1 will die, so I think that's 5. And that would be extremely problematic to ClarkKent if he doesn't have the Brawls, as we said. Especially as we see the War Song in hand for Catota, which allows him to basically activate all newly created Patrons. And then in the addition of the Unstable Ghoul. Wow!
Oh.
Well, nothing like not being able to see their hands to see that thing. So Clark goes ahead and uses a 6 Swamp Ooze. This, of course, is going to indicate that this is not Patron
Warrior.
Catota. So Catota now is I think he may have been suspecting it, but now he really knows. And I'm surprised, to be completely honest.
Now he's going to go for the Patron. Ooh.
Yeah, he's going to go for it. He's going to get 4. 1 can be killed, so he'll effectively have 3. And ClarkKent with 9 cards in hand. We'll see if he has the responses. 6 mana, it's really hard to deal with this many Patrons. Without Brawl.
And
like,
you got to be concerned also, even if you do Brawl and one of the 3/3s lives.
Excellent.
Like, there's only more where that came from.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent point. And with the, oh, but he's attacking
Looks
first.
like here it comes. Here it comes.
Well, I think I would have liked him not to attack it. Or I guess it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
So we see Armors with that.
Three lives.
See, worst case.
So worst case scenario, does ClarkKent
Shield Slam would clear it.
And if he doesn't, it would be pretty devastating because we see that Catota has other ways to activate the Patron. I think, Shield and
War-X. Yeah, he's a War-X.
Yeah.
He had to go into a Brawl there.
The clear occurs, and so now ClarkKent has survived the first wave of Patrons. And now Catota, having done that, he basically felt out the Brawl. He now needs to really look for draw. He's obviously has 4 cards. He needs to start getting massive draws going, because without that, he's going to be super dead in the water as this Control Warrior will continually armor up. Something I think is a good observation, and I've heard a lot of the pros talk about, is the Control Warrior is the only matchup in the entire game for Patron in which the longer the game goes, the worse the odds are for Patron.
Yeah.
Even if they draw their whole deck, the Control Warrior will be able to just armor outside of a OTK at some point, especially since ClarkKent's deck does run Justicar. So yeah, it's just a matter of time, and so Catota's going to want to draw quickly, ET what he's drawn, and then try to OTK Clark before he can get out of reach. So I think that's the best strategy for Catota. Obviously, that's hard to do with no draw cards in hand. I think the other really good strategy for Catota, or the other way out, is to try to get another another Patron turn, and he draws the patrons. And if he is able to get another Patron turn off, it's very unlikely that Clark has double Brawl in his hand, and Catota may even wonder if he has double Brawl in the entire deck. So Catota snap plays the Patron. This is a great play. He will make another 4 Patrons here. That being said, Clark has 2 answers. Has an answer to 2 of them right off the bat, and then one of them is at 1. So he really just needs 1 execute right here, and then Catota will basically be extremely dead in the water if he doesn't. I think I like that Catota's really putting Clark on having the Brawl, but I think Clark doesn't even need to have the Brawl here. The fact that he's attacked, this means he's has the Brawl. Wow, and this is Yep, this is game. I wouldn't even be surprised to see a concede out of Catota. This is
and a little BM. Outstanding.
Oh, that's rough.
Best scenario for Catota, but doesn't matter as Clark does have the axe, and that axe is the Survivor Slayer. as it were, as he's finishing off. So Catota without any patrons. If I'm Catota now, I would play this game as long as I could, see as much of this deck as I could. Or I guess it won't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm so used to last hero standing.
Right.
I would very much venture to say that's game.
So if you're
I think
Clark-
I would just concede, move on.
Yeah, creating the OTKs without the patrons and with 3 cards in hand is next to impossible.
Maybe you play long enough to get yourself off tilt about your opponent having double brawl in the top half of his deck.
Oh, and Clark's
top 10.
Clark's gonna finish this game out really quickly.
Wow.
And what's really
Oh
funny,
man, I wish we could have seen that hand.
yeah, we can't. What's kind of funny is that this ooze is actually protecting this 8/8 very well from any sort of war song attacks. And so the execute is kind of laying dormant. Catota does have 10 health, so you can draw out the game a little longer. But it doesn't look too good for him. And so yeah, it's looking pretty. It's not looking too good for Catota here.
What now?
So potentially an early game win from Clark. I mean, we couldn't see the mulligans. He did draw both brawls from sort of the middle of his hand, so it wasn't like he top decked them. But at the same time, it's very fortunate for Clark to have both brawls in the top. I think it was like 12 cards or something.
I'm told that if Clark invites us to spectate, we have a better... that it might actually go through.
Okay, I think after this game, honestly...
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt him while he's playing.
Right, I think we should back them out and then just restart it.
Yeah, he said he was going to restart after this game.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we'll do that. And what it's worth mentioning, as Clark has this enormous upper hand.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't push, which I find a little odd.
Plays right into that execute, yeah.
Right into the execute. At this point, I think Clark's kind of coasting. But,
I was too concerned.
yeah, at this point, actually, he can kind of just win through fatigue, I think. With the Justicar draw, the Justicar down, it's going to be out of reach. It's almost impossible unless Clark plays really into OTKs. This ET is getting only one part of the frothing combo, and it's not even that big. Clark's gonna just... Honestly, if I was Clark, I would actually I would consider even... the 1-2, I guess, without the patrons is pretty benign.
Yeah, if anything, he's great, because he's not strong enough to kill a ghoul. And so he can block an OTK charge.
And Clark is just climbing that armor ladder into Dan's dreams, as Dan
Feels
Dan
good. Feels so good. Love it.
Armor. So it looks like Catota is really gonna look for something here. And he finds an unstable goal. He could, with the other unstable goal, do something. I guess he's gonna set up a second draw. So he'll get 3 draws off of his. So he's still, credit to him. He's still trying, but it doesn't feel too good. Clark is known as rope coach on our team. He is the slowest player I've ever.
So slow.
He ropes every turn, and it's, I think, extremely tilting when, Clark's playing Control Warrior and Catota has next to no chance of winning this, that Clark has been actually roping almost every turn. So it's not, he's like one of the least, it's so frustrating to play against him when you're losing. Because it's just like, God, just kill me.
Yeah.
And actually,
just make the play.
I think he's going to give Catota his wish and put him out of his misery. This is lethal. We are going to take a quick break here and try to, and that's exactly lethal, wow. We're going to take a quick break here and try to figure out the spectator glitch. But game 1 goes to ClarkKent. So right off the bat, Clark denying the championship in this one game, because now Catota cannot 3-0. All right, so we are going to back out. I think Clark may restart.
I think he's going to restart entirely.
To hopefully fix that spectator mode issue. Clark with the win on his Warrior is going to mean he has Druid and Warlock left. Warlock, if it's handlock, which Clark is pretty well known for playing throughout the league, is definitely one of the hardest counters to Patron Warrior, and would be pretty difficult for Catota to overcome. That being said, I really think that matchup gets too much. Like, a lot of people are like, it's the hardest counter and it's impossible. I think, honestly, it's probably closer to like a 60-40. I think it's extremely winnable. A lot of people act like... And I think when I first started playing against patrons on ladder with Handlock, I would play it so confidently that I would lose a lot because it's actually a very tenuous... You have to play very carefully and really have to triple, quadruple taunt. So I think it's a matchup that Catota, who is extremely skilled patron player, definitely could take if Clark leaves the window open or draws poorly. So he does have the Handlock. And then the Druid is, I think the patron is favored versus Druid. It used to be about a 50-50, but TGT, I feel like the patron warriors have just kind of figured it out a little bit more.
I agree. I often hear the sentiment that the Druid has the advantage over patron, but I have never seen it.
I know
myself.
That with the Aspirant coming out in TGT, like, Druid definitely got a little bit better, but I feel like people have just really figured out, patron players have figured out, oh, if I get patrons off turn 5 or turn 6, Druid has nothing they can do about it.
Exactly.
It's so hard for Druid to clear. If you're a Druid player, you need, Force of Natures, you need Wraths, you need Keepers.
You need spell power on your swipe.
Right.
And even then, you won't get the job done.
And it's just really unlikely. That being said, Druid can do Druid things, as I showed in my game, where it can explosively start with Innervates and Wild Growths and whatnot, and put so much pressure on Patron that Patron has to use its resources ineffectively.
Yeah, they never expect the turn 2 ET.
Right. So I think it's like closer to a 50-50, but I still think a really good patron player is definitely favored in that, and I would definitely classify Catota as a really good patron player. So if I'm Clark here, I'd probably go with Handlock, anticipating the patron bringback. But Catota could easily punish that. Now that
with Hunter.
Yeah, he could bring Hunter
or Mage.
He could also bring Mage, and honestly, the Tempo Mage is generally favored versus War Handlock, and Freeze Mage even is certainly not. I would say it's a good Freeze Mage player can easily win it, or can win it. I think a Handlock player, I think, is maybe slightly favored, depending on how the Handlock's built. If it has Lotheb, that's enormous. So Catota seeing the warrior go out of the way, maybe that opens the door for his Freeze Mage to come in. But either way, he should have a couple favorable matchups against that Handlock, if that's what ClarkKent elects to go with. ClarkKent is relogging back online, so we should be able to pick back up pretty quickly here. And if you're
obvious question, but he checked to make sure that he could be spectated.
Oh yeah, he toggled it on and off. We couldn't get in there, and neither could Catota, as everyone got out of here. You see what I did that? Anyway, okay, yeah. So if you're Catota here, do you bring back the patron, looking at Druid and Warlock, or do you maybe gift to Hunter?
I think give it to Hunter.
I like Hunter a lot if I'm Catota here. The mid-range Hunter is generally very favored versus Druid, and then also, it's I would say favored versus Handlock. What do you think, Steve?
You would say what? I'm sorry?
I don't know about that.
I think
the mid-range Hunter has the advantage on Handlock.
Oh, I would agree. It's not as massive as it used to be, but I think they still have the advantage.
Yeah, I think it's slightly favored, but the Demon Handlock is got great tempo, which is something Handlock isn't known for, right? Like, Handlock is a very powerful deck that kind of relies on like a massive mid-game swing. It loses the early game and then plays enormous creatures throughout the end game, the mid and end game. The Demon Handlock, however, is able to put out, what do they call it? Void Callers. And those are able to contest the board on early, turns 3 and 4, and then B, they're able to bring out the enormous demons that the deck runs. So, and that can be a problem for a mid-range hunter to deal with enormous creatures if they don't have potentially a hunter's mark or maybe an owl. Anyway, Catota and Clark are back. So right now they are about to queue up the second game. They are considering it. I think Catota will probably bring Hunter. It seems like a really safe bring, and Clark could go with either way here. I would kind of expect the handlock just in case Catota is one of those players, and there are those players in the Conquest arenas or realms that just bring back the same deck. And
I
honestly,
also just don't think that the Druid does. The Druid's just not good in this matchup at all, and so I think you'd want to sit on that for last.
Yeah, I think Druid is going to be Clark's hardest win. That being said, I think Catota has his work cut out with... wow, we still can't see Clark.
Yeah, he needs to invite us.
Okay, I've asked him to invite us.
Rexa versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine.
And it looks like they started game 2.
Catota did go hunter.
Catota did go hunter.
Yeah, it is a mid-range hunter. Clark went with warlock. So
Clark, so kind of what we thought. And Clark, okay, so if he invites you, I think it'll work. So I got invited from Clark.
Yeah, the invite works.
Okay.
Shout out to D Lineman for sending the message to me and making that information accessible.
All right, so...
So wait, is that a new... That's not a... They didn't reinstitute that patch thing. Or that thing from before.
I don't know why that's the case, because it worked fine for me and you.
It's a bug at this point.
Are all of you in? Are you in?
I'm on Catota. I have nothing from ClarkKent.
Okay.
I'm just going to make a blanket statement that all these bugs are attributable to it being made in Unity.
That's the guy.
You can do with that what you will.
Rich, do you have an invite from Clark?
I do, yes. The
Okay, I'll
stream
ask
can see Clark's.
Okay. Okay, so just right off the bat, we see mid-range from Catota. He has an insanely good
Such a good hand.
ClarkKent has double Kazan, so he is going to bring the anti...
He's got double Kazan and double board clear.
He's going to bring the anti kind of secrets deck, and the Mad Scientist right off the bat should give him some sort of value here. That being said, his hand is pretty bad. Like, you've got the Kazans, but no early game presence, no Giants, no Drakes.
And he has no way to kill the Scientist to get the Kazan value right now either.
Right, and Hellfire this early, like, if Catota coins out the Shredder, Hellfire will be great, but it looks like
tapping is the right call.
I like that. He's double owl, so...
Double owl, wow.
Yeah, extremely defensive deck. I did make this with him. This deck should, I think, contest Handlock well if it draws well. But this is going to be tough without the Shredder coming down. This Hellfire is not that great, to be honest. Dark Bomb.
There's no Moltons in hand. There's just nothing.
There's a Dark Bomb. That's nice.
The Dark Bomb's pretty nice. He could Dark Bomb an Owl if he wants. It's not great. Owl can. There's a lot of decent targets. And if Catota sees a Dark Bomb Owl, I would presume, I would expect Kazan, because, why wouldn't you Owl the Scientist? So we see a Dark Bomb, and it is a Freezing Trap. So that's, really not great for Clark, because
he'll be able to proc it with a web spinner.
Right, the web spinners, exactly. And it looks like Katota's going to kill this off. And that's...
Oh man, this is rough. I don't really...
rough. Yeah, this is going to be really rough. I think Clark will drop the Kazan, but this is the problem with this deck. Handlock is a very delicate deck, and putting 2 Kazans in it is
2 Kazans and 2 Owls.
Yeah.
Right. The Molten Giant's a good pickup, but he just lost his Taunt Giver, so...
Yeah.
And you don't really want to take Freezing Trap with 1/1s on the board. That being said, Clark doesn't know what this is. Putting the anti-Keelbot would really not be great, considering the Molten is in his hand now. Hellfire.
It's also less about with the Kazan against the Hunter. Generally, I mean, yeah, an explosive trap would be nice, but in general, it's less about gaining the value and more about just removing it from them.
Right. No, I completely agree.
I think Healbot's definitely the play here. He plays Healbot. He'll force Catota to bow the Healbot or kill command it because Catota doesn't want that to be freezing trapped. And by doing that, he'll eat the bow charge, and then he can steal the freezing trap after that. And he can kind of try to build tempo back. I mean, it's not a great play, but I think it's really his only play on this turn.
Well, he will.
Agrees.
Cassidy's suggestion, he's going to Healbot here. With the bow up, I would assume Katota's going to let this live, although letting that... Oh, well, maybe not.
No, he'll bow it off. He doesn't have a choice.
Because he doesn't want it to... Yeah, otherwise that's 16. Or that's another 8 health.
And so now Clark knows what trap he's going to steal. If he could just pick up a Mortal Coil, or 2 Mortal Coils at this point.
Well,
not a bad spot.
The Hellfire's starting to look pretty good.
Starting to look
and
way
he
better.
picks up the second Sun Fury, which is huge.
I mean, Owl Hellfire here is not bad, to be completely honest. You can Owl Hellfire. It looks like he might not Owl it. He doesn't have the Dark Bomb anymore. Throwing away your Owl, like just letting it die, kind of sucks. It looks like he's going to tap, and he gets the second Molten.
Oh.
So,
Wow.
He's got a lot of power. What comes out?
King of Beasts, Corehound. Okay, so big
Wow.
minions.
Big minions.
Oh, and a useless... I mean, that is just terrible for Catota.
Yeah, that's not good.
That is... Honestly, that is potentially the worst one.
I think we're gonna see. Oh, I'd like to see him coin out the Corehound here, but I guess he's gonna play King of Beasts to protect his juggler.
He will. Clark again with just really no minions to play. Oh man, and he draws again. So I think we'll finally see the Kazan here because he's just got nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Kazan Shadowflame is not even a possibility yet because mana. He needs minions.
Well, right now he's looking at on board alone 7 damage. So if he taps, then just off board he goes down to 9. So I might want to just do a Kazan and tap, but
tapping
a little risky.
Pretty tenuous, yeah. And we see in Katota's hand he has the kill command. He's got the unleash. He's got some bursts. He's got the Poundmaster.
He could owl the juggler just for the sake of it.
Clark,
he does go for the tap. Living on the edge.
The Mortal Coil, but it is too late, pretty much. And Catota has got to be like, what? Catota doesn't have lethal. He's got 5 plus 5 is 10 plus...
Well... Yeah,
not
or we
quite
assume he
lethal.
sends back the King of Beasts.
He really goes for it. Oh, right, and then there's the freezing trap. So yeah, he's definitely off. I think he's considering using the Unleash the Hounds to proc the freezing trap. If he really goes for it here, Clark will really be able to unleash his own version of Unleash, which is in the form of Molten Giants. But Clark does lack healing. He doesn't have a Draxus. He's already used 1 heal bot. He has 16 cards left, so that's 2 out of 16 to draw some form of healing. So if Catota goes all in and puts Clark at a low enough health, he may be able to just, ignore the Moltens and handle
I think what
it.
he's going to ultimately do is split the difference and leave Clark around 13, 14. Because he'll force him to only be able to play 1 Molten Giant and taunt up, which he then has the Owl to get through.
Right, and he's going to go with this, and that's
going to hurt.
That was very all-in, and now Clark will be able to double Molten and Taunt, and he can Shadow Flame. Well, that's 4. He can do all of that. I don't know if I would put a Shadow Flame.
I don't know if the Shadow Flame's worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what
It's a super defensive play, and I don't know that. I mean, it would definitely keep you alive longer, but you're playing to win and not to survive a few more turns. Well, and you're really going to want that Shadow Flame when the Corehound comes down.
Looking at this hand, actually, with the Owl and the Kill Command, Shadow Flame probably is the correct play. Yes. I think he's dead if he doesn't Shadow Flame. Because
but I don't think he's going to.
The Owl and the Kill Command are lethal.
My shield.
And he's not going to... let's see here. I don't know if Catota has enough mana to kill him. He can Owl one off, and then he can...
Kill Command and trade the other.
And he's 2... He's 2 damage. Oh, he definitely can't kill him this turn. No. He actually really can't kill him at all.
No.
And now ClarkKent is
He's gonna Alec and look for a large minion.
Against the handlock. Bold play.
And he loses. That would have been a very good pickup too. That would have been a huge pickup.
It's also really useful information to know that there's 2 Houndmasters in there.
Yeah, Clark dodging
that
that.
deck.
This is a very tense board. Catota, man, if you're Catota here, you could drop another freezing trap. Doesn't do much.
No.
It's also going to get taken.
I think you kill off one of these. I mean, you're not scared of
Silence the other. Oh, he's just gonna hero pop.
I think he's just going to go for it.
I think you... Okay, so he wants to work in as many... Wow, and silencing it preemptively I think is actually bad, because now he'll just retaunt it. And
I would agree.
Owl. I'm very surprised by that play. Clark should be able to get some sort of board clear now. And he's going to really just need healing at this point.
He finds a Sludge Belcher.
So if you're Clark here, what's the best way to board clear? I think it's to...
Shadow Flame the Silenced Giant?
No, you Shadow Flame your Owl. After running it into face, and then you run one of the giants into the King of Beasts, and then you use the ping on the 4/3 and taunt up the giants, I guess.
I think that's what I'd do.
I would definitely just Shadow Flame the Silence Giant because you have lethal next turn.
That's also super fair.
I would want to taunt again. It looks like he'll drop the Sludge Belcher here.
Yep.
And Sludge Belcher will give him double taunts, effectively. He just saw the Owl. And now Catota is really on his back foot, and this is a deck he really wanted to beat with his Hunter.
Kill command.
It's not over. Ooh,
No, it's over.
No, it is.
It is over.
Quick
He can
shot
drop
or kill command was an out.
It's over, yeah. So really tenuous. I think both players played it extremely well. Clark really, honestly, I think I would have lost this game if I was Clark. Clark showing why he has a gold Warlock. I mean, he kept tapping when I probably wouldn't have tapped. He played it very. I think he played it very boldly, and it paid off. Catota, I think, made a couple questionable plays, but it's